Hey Kevin, what's up? Just like old times, huh? Video, response, response, video, response, response. Here we go again. First things first, I don't think that this response is going to go out of the way of, the videos that I wanted to put out, which were going to be going with my train of thought these past couple of months. So, yeah, this is not a detour. First things out the way, what was I saying? One, yeah, you weren't the one I was talking about when I said the night vampire libertarian. I consider you more a straight anarchist than a libertarian, even though I know you have libertarian views, but I guess I should have counted you. Now, it's somebody else, and I don't know if she's seen it already, but whatever. There's a couple of things I want to hit on first, and then I want to, give my own thoughts on what you said. First, on me generalizing the Tea Party. It does seem like I generalize it a bit too much, but I do understand that it is a rather disorganized mess right now. I kind of ran through them a little bit too quick, and I guess it made it sound like I was thinking like there was this big, organized movement trying to... Nah, I know that they're not. I know that they're pretty much disorganized, but I do know that they are being run by, well, scum. I know they're, right-wing conservative groups, but most of them are scum, and that's exactly how I see them, and that's just the way I'm going to call it until they happen to show me something that changes my mind on the issue. But I know they are a discombobulated mess, and I know not everybody in there shares that particular narrow-minded, backwards point of view. The one that America's been trying to get away from for a while now. I also know that the Tea Party movement has potential to actually do some good. That's the one thing that I'm sort of hoping, but it's just that my jaded view of humanity tends for me not to, expect much out of it. It does have some potential to get politicians shaking in their boots. The problem is, it could have the potential for all the wrong reasons because of the wrong people running it. And as long as the people who are running it continue to run it, they might be able to guide it in, a certain direction. I know there's much to be said for the people in the movement, but all one has to do is look at the civil rights movement to see how a group of angry people can easily be pacified by leaders who lead them into a different direction. I can go more into that subject, but I only have a certain amount of time here. And we're not talking about the civil rights movement, we're talking about libertarians and, Tea Party movements and conservatives and whatnot. So, about what you said about the libertarian movement itself and how you guys already know about people trying to hijack it. It's cool that you guys know, because, well, it's something that, you don't want that name to be hijacked, but from what you said, it looks like it's been somewhat, removed from its original intent already, which I guess is to be expected. And another thing I wanted to state is that it's one thing to be ready for them, but it's another thing to be able to stem the tide of the name itself being tarnished. Lots of names over the years have gotten tarnished because of the jackasses who usurped it. Conservatism being one of those names. And I just don't want to see the same thing happen to libertarianism, which, despite the good intentions of those who are, in it trying to do some good, it might get taken from them easily despite how prepared they may be. It's all in public perception, unfortunately. And who happens to scream the loudest. It's interesting that you pointed out that the man who founded the Libertarian Party, and yeah, I am going to check out that book. I've already looked it up online. The minute you said, check that book out, I instantly started searching. I'm searching it on Google, so I will grab it. It's interesting how you said that the original intent of the party was to educate and agitate, not necessarily to win elections or to get people into power, but as soon as it became a political party, the emphasis shifted. This is something that I've seen with a lot of movements. Almost every movement, in fact, that have been, started by human beings trying to initiate change. Sooner or later, it becomes removed from the original founder's intent or the original group's intent. And you see one of two things almost inevitably. Either the founder or founders end up distancing themselves from what their movement has become, or you find that after the founder is gone, the movement moves into a different direction than how it started. And this is something that seems to be universal from everything from religious organizations and religions to political parties and, you know, other large groups of people who came to either do some good or initiate some change or pursue some ideal. A good example of this would be the much maligned socialism, or the works of Karl Marx. I find, at least from my own experience, that very few Americans actually know the history of this man and how much he distanced himself from the people who claimed to be his followers later on after he wrote his manifesto. He was actually quite appalled when he saw what people were saying about his works and what they were planning on doing with it. And he had a lot of arguments with other people who were claiming that name at the time. Major debates with people who were saying, oh yeah, your thing is a good thing, but I think we should initiate it this way. And he was like, what the fuck? Few Americans know that. Few Americans also note that he actually wasn't trying to start a plan of action. He was actually trying to write down what he thought would be the evolution of governments. And I think that in some cases he was wrong, but in other cases he was right. A good example would be Europe. If you look at the way they've been, you know, slowly evolving their governments, it seems that some of the things that he claimed was going to happen seem to have been happening. Not exactly the way that he stated, but some of those ideas were naturally being accepted anyway. But again, that's a subject for a completely different video. I'm just, again, finding it interesting that, you know, everyone from Jesus to Buddha to Marx to, you know, Jefferson, whatever leaders happen to try to come up with a particular ideal and a particular movement, years later on, you know, years down the line, the people end up verging in a different direction because, and it usually is because of the same thing. We can get power out of this. I can get something out of this. That's usually what it ends up being. We can get power out of this. Once that idea slips in, whatever good you wanted to do goes right out the fucking window. And the Tea Party is ripe for that shit because it's disorganized and because the wrong people are already in charge. I'm finding these events going on right now to be very interesting as well as very volatile. There is potential for some serious shit to go down over the next few years because of the instability that's going on between people's ideals and the situation we're living in. The economy is crap. You got a whole lot of jobless people with nothing to do and a lot of rage. You got a lot of people who are losing their sense of privilege, and that pisses them off. They're saying, oh, we're losing our rights, when it really is they're losing their privileges. They're pissed off at the fact that they now have to share the pie that they've been hoarding for so long, which is why you're having a lot of outrage out there. You're having a lot of downtrodden people who are saying enough is enough, and then you got government trying to hold on to what it can hold on to. Something's got to give. And in the midst of all this craziness, you got people seeking certain labels and certain names in order to stay alive. And the Libertarian title is one of them. It's, despite what many conservatives are... Actually, I think many conservatives are realizing that they're not exactly popular anymore, you know, despite the major pushes that they're trying to do. I mean, there are a lot of hardcore conservatives desperately trying to, you know, hold on to power and resurface again as, you know, this mighty giant, and they're taking advantage of whatever they can to, you know, boost the brand. But despite as much noise that they're making in, you know, popular media, I'm not finding too many people, sane people anyway, who are willing to lump themselves up under that banner. And those who are quick to state, I'm not like those guys. So you're finding a desperate scramble of, you know, conservatives desperately trying to put themselves under a different name, even though they're using the same logic and going with the same ideals and the same beliefs that they've always been holding on to. But they've got to rebrand themselves so that they can survive. And this is nothing new. We've seen that with other groups before. I'm just simply saying that if you're dealing with a bunch of miscreants and you don't want them to survive, don't let them grab onto your name, because they will end up surviving and your group will end up being destroyed. The wrong groups end up dying off, which sadly seems to be a constant in history. Unfortunately, I feel like I'm just rambling now instead of actually coming with something cohesive, but I hope I've come up with a few interesting points, and I think I touched on some of the stuff you were doing. I need to get to bed. Catch you later.